Hi, this is Paul Palmer. Today I want to talk about risk, managing risk in your pharmaceutical company. Now, of course, risk isn't just for us in pharmaceuticals, but we have quite a lot of tools that we use already as a routine. So, for example, you might want to carry out a risk assessment. Your risk assessment might be because you found a problem and you want to know whether it's worth addressing the issues or whether you just throw it away or what else you need to do going forward. And you write that down in your risk assessment. You take the actions, you identify the actions, take them, then reduce, eliminate, control the risk. I think hopefully you know the jargon already. But the thing is, risks are not always the ones that you can see. So you should have something called a risk register. And a risk register is about business continuity. And most companies have it from a financial perspective, but sometimes they don't have it from a quality perspective. So why should you have one? Well, you might identify a problem potentially within your systems, within your processes. You might have a computer that could go down. Maybe you've got a server where all your data is stored and you don't have a backup. Well, hope you do have a backup, really. What about if you've got all your data on the LIMS system, the Laboratory Information Management System, and you rely on that for batch release, stability, maybe for complaint investigations? Then you might have people. So there's plenty of risks that you can think of based on the people that you employ. Now, we're in an unusual situation at the moment where the risks are high. The risks in the pandemic of somebody having the infection and coming in and spreading it around the team. And then what happens then? Well, do you continue working? Do you suspend work? If you have to suspend work, how then do you distribute your product? Can you distribute your product? Maybe you can't release it. Have you already got the remote working set up? Well, since we're several months into the pandemic, I do hope so. But the point of this video really is make sure you're aware of the risks. The risk to your business, the risk to GMP, the risk to GDP, GLP, DPVP, whichever part of the organization you're responsible for. Then there's going to be risks. Now, the risks might not come from within your team. This is another aspect of risk management and awareness and making sure you've got a full, complete risk register, because it may be that a risk to your team comes from another team. It may be that your team are putting another team at risk. So you have to do it as a cross-functional assessment, not just leave one person to do it. They can take responsibility, and you can use your RACI to actually determine who's responsible, who's accountable, who's checking, who's informed, who's actually managing the risk. But the real thing to consider is what influences are there on your business, internal and external. How are you addressing them at the moment? What new information comes in that impacts an existing risk assessment? Does it need to be updated to make sure that you're actually managing the risk still? Can you continue in business? If you don't continue in business, well, what happens then? If your business has to be suspended for a period of time, do you have enough stock so that you can continue supply, making sure the patients are not at risk? What happens if a senior team member goes off sick? And they may be the only one that can do a certain activity. So mitigation for that risk may be having a deputy. Maybe that deputy has to be named on a license somewhere. There's a lot of things that you need to consider when you look at risk management. Because of that, there are different training courses that you can attend. There's too many different things that for me to go into here today. But maybe on another video, I'll give you a bit more information. Maybe I'll look at a way to do a risk assessment. And make sure you consider the risks to your business, not just the upside. The upside can be totally wiped out by a downside. And that's something that you need to be aware of. Don't bury yourself in sand and just get on. Make sure that you've considered your risks, that you've documented them, and if at some time in the future things change, that you review them and make sure that the assessment that you made the previous time still applies. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. It's Paul Palmer.